All right. Okay, you're doing this.
Sit here.
Happening. Yep. All right. Test, test, test. This mic is yours.
Okay, I have to use it like this?
Yeah, hold it to
Really?
your mouth. Yeah, for just 45 minutes. If it's not
That's
too
a phallic
much.
symbol.
Okay.
Give it a mic.
Okay, you like how you look like in the.
That's fine. Yeah,
Yeah, cool.
I'm all right. Yeah.
Alright, test, test. It has to be like.
Okay, test, test, test.
Cool.
All right,
Sounds good.
are we okay?
Right.
All right. Put on my best radio voice here.
Okay.
FM radio.
Alright, this is Hello Hello Kopi Kumilo podcast. We have Mr. Chaz Skinner all the way from Canada. Right. Welcome, Mr. Chaz. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Who is Mr. Chaz Skinner and how young is he today?
Oh,
How would you describe yourself?
Well, who am I? Maybe. Okay. I can talk about myself in the third person, but it's always very difficult. Actually, I'm a retired professor from Canada, and after I retired from the university in Canada, I took a contract at UITM in Punjab Pradana, and I was there for about 6 years.
Right.
And after that, I took a part-time contract at Aswara, and I was there for 3 semesters.
Wow.
Malaysia has become like my home, and I like being here. So right now, I'm just here on a short holiday. I'm going back in a few days.
Okay, how was your childhood like back in Canada? How did you grow up? Because you obviously have like a theater background, right? How did it all started? Like?
Yeah, I mean it would take for a long treatise to talk to you about how I connected with that. But I grew up in what Malaysians would identify with as a village. With my father was a fisherman, and so in a village. There was nothing much in terms of entertainment other than the traditional things that people did. So you grew up with understanding and valuing performances because people did it on special occasions. And when I went to university, I was studying English literature and other things, and I became attracted to dramatic literature. And I went to see every play that I could possibly see, and then I graduated, and I was teaching high school for a few years, and there I got involved in theater. I studied one summer. I studied in the UK, and the next summer I studied at the Banff School of Fine Arts in Western Canada. That was how I got involved in theater, and then I got tired of teaching high school after a while, so I went away and did my master's and then did my PhD.
Right, straight on like right after.
Well, after I did my master's, I was able to get a contract at a university,
Right.
and there I was able to juggle my time to be able to do a PhD, and from there I spent my whole career at the same university. But
Okay.
I used to come to Malaysia once in a while for recruiting trips and things like that.
So this was even before you started teaching here.
All before I started teaching here. When I started teaching here, I had already retired from being a drama professor at a university in Canada. I was also the dean of fine arts for 10 years as well. So I've done the whole gamut. I've started out as a lecturer, part-time lecturer to full-time professor to dean.
So how was your character like as a kid? Did you like sort of evolve to actually fall in love with teaching, or you had that as a young boy, or is it?
I think so. I always say that when I was born, I was only given one program, and that program was teaching.
All right.
And that's all I ever wanted to be, was a teacher. I was not sure what the subject was going to be. I mean, the university that I went to is what they call liberal arts, and so you had to take courses in the sciences and the humanities and the social sciences and so on. And as I was going through that, I found a great interest in the humanities, and so I stuck with that. But teaching is my first love. That's the only thing I could do, I think, and I sometimes now regret that I was a dean for 10 years, but I did enjoy that too. But during those 10 years, I did not teach. So in the time that I've been in Malaysia, I have been making up for all those times when I was not teaching. But teaching is my first love. That's really what I love doing.
Oh, you mentioned regret, right? Right, doing something that you don't really want to do, sort of. The deep
Well,
side of it.
I've never done anything that I didn't want to do, except when I was a student and I had papers to do. Maybe I didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
but other than that, I never really worked at anything I didn't want to do. If I worked at jobs that were not that interesting, it was because they were summer jobs and ones I was working on to earn some money so that I could go back to university.
So it's
and so on.
seasonal, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you work for about 3 months or something
Yeah.
in some whatever job you can get. But it was always comforting to know that I wouldn't be doing that for very long. That I would be going back to university and then finishing becoming a teacher. So, no, I mean, regret. I don't really have very much in my life that I regret because I've been very fortunate that I have done many of the things that I've always wanted to do. They say that when you get older, and I guess I'm older, when you get older, you only regret the things you did not do. You don't regret the things you did, you regret those you did not do, which means live life to the fullest. Do the things you want to do and so on. So no, I have nothing about my career that I regret at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So you let's say if you were to be put in a shoe where a Malaysian who has to choose between his passion, which is theater, or making a living 9 to 5, something that they don't like to do, right? What would your advice be? Or is it different from a first world country point of view and sort of Malaysia?
I think it's the same thing. I don't think it has to do with first or second or third world country. It really matters when it comes to the arts. I mean, making a living in the arts is somewhat difficult. One of the things I would tell students that who were looking to be actors or theater directors, the best way to get work in theater is to make your own. Right? You get a group of people together and you then put together a theater company and do plays that you think people are going to come and see. I mean, then you've started your own company. And I think in KL, for example, I think there's a great need for theater companies. But I don't mean theater companies that are, say, non-paying. I mean professional theater companies where you actually pay a wage to the people who are working for you. And that takes a while. That takes some time. But in Canada, the students have the same dilemma. They're involved in something that they love very much, but being able to find full-time work in that is very difficult. And so what a lot of them do is exactly what I did. That is, you combine it with something else. For example, I became a teacher, and I became a drama teacher, theater teacher. So I was able to do both things that I liked. I could teach, and at the same time I could direct theater and so on. So that's one way of doing it. I think most people in Canada or even in the United States, it's a dilemma. But people are so much in love with it that they will, and those who persist will eventually find something, I think, that will satisfy them.
Right.
But I still think the best way to find work in theater is to make your own.
Right. Okay. Is like, do someone need to sacrifice their happiness, sort of go through a certain amount of pain to put through and to actually get to where they want to get in life?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. You are picking up on that popular idea that you must suffer for your art. I mean, I don't know if that's true.
When I say suffer though, like, do you have to like do something that you don't want to do, a 9 to 5 sort of, to actually pay your dues or student loan debt to actually get to do what you love?
Yeah, I mean, I see that's a fairly common practice, right? I mean, for example, in Canada, a number of students who done theater, majored in theater, when they left, they came to somewhere in Asia and they were teaching English in Japan or in Korea for 2 years to pay off their student loans. Because in some countries you get paid very well doing that, right? And so a lot of them do that. Others will do, they will get a 9-to-5 job, and then they sacrifice time in the evenings, working with a group of people on something and so on, and so that they're able to do both. And after a while, their love becomes their work. I mean, we use a word in English, amateur. We say something is amateur.
Right.
And unfortunately, the word has lost some of its original meaning. The word amateur comes from the Latin word amari, which means to love. Right? And so the English word amorous is the same word, which means to love, to be loving. So people who are amateurs in theatre are doing it because they love doing it. But in Canada, we have a very big system of community theatre. Theatre doesn't pay, but it provides opportunities for students, for people to do what they really love. And so some community theatres, for example, are very professional. They do exceptionally good work. But a lot of people they would work during the daytime, maybe, who knows what they would work for, but I mean, it could work in retail or something. But in the evenings and on weekends, they are working on the thing they really love, and doing it as amateurs. But the show goes on and people come to see it, and they love the response from audiences and that kind of stuff. But generally, those who are really interested will say, okay, I've done my time, and now I'm going to go to Calgary or Edmonton, where there's theatre companies, and so on. If you want to make a living as as an actor, you really need to be living where there are theatre companies, right? I mean, Singapore has quite a number of theatre companies, and so it's possible to get work in Singapore, and if you get work, they pay you a decent wage. They don't seem to have that in KL. It's not here, and I'm surprised it's not here, because I think KL could support a couple of theatre companies.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's tried.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very I think there's just a lot of people here, and I think that people would be prepared to come and see good stuff, right? I mean, not prepared to come and see stuff that isn't very good, but it would be. I think what you need to do here, anybody who's starting a theatre company here, needs to do a lot of work in what's called audience development. Like, how do you develop audiences?
Right.
And it's a thing that people study, but there are programs available to do that, so that when you get someone to come to your theatre, you've got them, and you inform them and all that kind of stuff and so on. And eventually, over a period of years, you will build up this theatre base, this audience base, but it doesn't happen overnight. And they don't have that, there isn't that audience base in Kuala Lumpur, I think, for example, if you did children's theatre here, you had a professional children's theatre company here, you would, I think, do very well, because there's a lot of middle-class families who want to have things for their kids to see and do and so on, so that's there. I don't mean sacrifice in that you have to suffer. I mean, you're going to have to do something else as you build the thing up to the point where it will sustain you. Singapore does have theatre companies that will pay actors and all the backstage people and stuff like that.
Right. And
they pay them decent wages.
What is theatre, by the way? What is theatre, and what does it mean to be acting in theatre in comparison with television, like cinema?
Well, I see it sometimes in some productions I've done in KL with students who've come to see the productions, but they talk during the show. And I think it's because they think it's like TV.
Right?
and the big difference between theater and television is that in theater the actors are real. They can hear you. You can see when they're sweating. You can see when they open their mouths and spray comes out and all those kinds of things. It's live. It's there. You are sharing in the moment, and I find that nothing compares to that. I mean, that is film. I like film, but film is recorded on plastic. And you can watch it over and over again, and you can talk during it if you want to, because the actors are not going to be able to hear you. But in a theater, that's why in theater, for example, we insist that people put their phones away. But some people don't, and you have phones ringing during the show, and people don't understand that these are real actors up there, and they can hear you, and your phone is going to throw them off, and so on. So what is theater? I mean, theater has been with us since the beginning of time. It is a form of storytelling about us. I still think, for example, if you want to get a successful theater company in Malaysia, you should tell Malaysian stories. You should tell stories about Malaysia, not stories about London, not stories about New York, but stories about Malaysia.
Relatability, right?
Yeah, I mean, the people there should be people that people can identify.
Yeah.
We go to see theater because the theater is about us. It's about people interacting, people trying to get on with their lives and all the obstacles that they encounter. And sometimes those obstacles are funny, and sometimes those obstacles are tragic. But that is the nature of life, and that is the nature of theater and art. I mean, some of it is funny, some is not funny. Some of the best moments of theater that I've ever had have been watching tragedy, and the Greeks taught us about that, and it's been around forever. So theater is a case of enactment of stories, the telling of stories by people from the community or people that we can identify with. Right? So if you want to start a theater company here, it really has to be Malaysian stories.
Right.
Once in a while, you can sneak in one from another country or something like that, But for the most part, it has to be Malaysian stories.
Right. Before the podcast, we were sitting in a coffee shop. You mentioned about Hamlet, right? You talk about to be or not to be.
Yeah.
And I find it fascinating what you told me. You mind
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about acting. I said that sometimes when people hear the word Shakespeare, they go, "Oh, Shakespeare," their voices change and they stand differently and so on. That's a lot of foolishness. That is the way they used to act back in the 19th century and part of the 20th century. Big theaters required big voices and all that, but we don't really need that now. I mean, we have microphones sitting around the place now that we can pick up and help the sound within a building, and so we don't need to do that. But theater, I think, works best when it is performed, or Shakespeare works best when it's performed as if it's a naturalistic conversation that people are having. I told you the story about when students sometimes take to be or not to be. Suddenly it's good to be or not to be, that is the question, and so on. And I will always say, well, what is Hamlet saying? What is Hamlet's problem here? And I say, well, actually, Hamlet is saying, should I live or should I die? That's something that's very introspective,
contemplating suicide.
Yes, he's complaining, he's contemplating it, saying, to be or not to be, that is the question. Should I live or should I die? That's the big question here. And that is not one that you go to be or not to be, that is the question. No, why? It means nothing to me if you do that. But if I had some young man who was troubled and saying things like to be or not to be, that's the question, should I live or should I die? Then suddenly it takes on a whole different meaning, right? And I like Shakespearean acting and almost any acting where it's done naturalistically. The dialogue is performed as if it were a conversation. I used to tell students in my classes here, I want you to say these lines as if people walking by may think
You're right.
that you are having a conversation. Right?
Yes, yes.
And you see a lot of that on TV. Some of the TV, it's so ultra realistic
Mm-hmm.
that you're not sure if they're acting or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that kind. I like that kind. And Shakespeare done in that mode takes on to me a whole new meaning. It's not like watching a museum piece. Personally, I hate theater that is museum pieces.
Right.
I don't want to see that stuff, you know. I really don't care the costumes or how they did it. I want something for today. Theater has to be the here and now. It has to be important now, and it has to be important here. So to be or not to be, but many of Shakespeare's plays are like that. You ask yourself, well, what are they saying? What is it they want? And once you boil it down to a couple of words, this is what they want, suddenly it takes on a whole new meaning.
Right. Okay. Speaking of that, right? Speaking of contemplating suicide, what are your thoughts on existentialism and like people who overthink things? And this might caught you off guard a little bit, but this is talking about real life situations where they don't have the spirit or strength or perhaps the perspective to actually go on with their life, and they are too self-absorbed in the problems, I would presume, and maybe you have something to share with your amount of wisdom that you have acquired these years.
Well, it's a big question. I mean, it's a big question. Theater sometimes attracts people. Sometimes attracts people who are having difficulties. Not all, I mean, not everybody, but every now and then. And the reason it is because theater is a community. You can't do it by yourself. You need a group of people. And theater has always been very accepting of people, regardless of their health or their orientation or whatever it might be. Theater has always been accepting of that. And that is the community that's required. For example, you can't teach drama without having a sense of a community. You have to perform. You depend on each other. It's a collaborative art form. It's not like painting or maybe going downstairs and practicing your violin. It's something you need other people to do. So that kind of, what would you call it? That kind of camaraderie is essential for theater, but it's also essential for people who feel lonely, people who feel that life is not providing them with any opportunities, or sad because they have, say no relationships or few relationships, or they've lost a relationship they have. All of these things we require people to talk to. And I think sometimes the community of theater is there to listen sometimes to people who do that sort of stuff. That doesn't say that theater is primarily therapeutic, but it is therapeutic. I mean, you can't get away from that. If you're involved in a theater production, there's a certain degree of therapy associated with it. You're sad when it's over, but while it's going on, you're quite very happy. Now, you mentioned the word existentialism. That's a different kind of word. That's a form of philosophy. Came about after the wars in Europe. Mm-hmm. Europe had been, for the most part, a Christian world. And then when people looked around and saw the devastation that World War I had created, they questioned, what is the meaning of things? Why are we here? And so they came out with this philosophy, this philosophy which is called existentialism. People assume somehow it means that you don't believe in God. That is not true. You can be an existentialist and believe in God. But existentialists believe that you are the answer to your own problems. Mm. You can fix your own problems. There's nobody who's going to help you, right? I mean, so if you've got a problem, you go about trying to fix it. There's no point in wishing upon a star or anything else. It is going to, if you want to fix it, you fix it yourself. Mm. There is a form of theater called existentialist theater, or sometimes it was called absurd theater, or the absurdists, which again, they were often very circular. They went around in a circle, you know, they ended where they started and all that kind of stuff and so on. But that's another time, and it would take a whole lecture to talk about what that means. But existentialism doesn't mean that there is no God, and it doesn't mean that that you know it is connected with suicide or anything like that. It's just a way of looking at life, that you do believe in a higher power, but that higher power is just not somebody you're going to call on every time you have trouble, right? If you have trouble, then you have to fix it yourself. That's part of that. But things like suicidal thoughts and so on, these are mental health issues, right? And if you had an actor who is who is thinking like that, then that is a mental health. That's where people then need to be referred to appropriate doctors for those kinds of things, and that can be fixed. I mean, it's you know, can be fixed with medication these days, and with a lot of talking. I think this world that we live in, this very busy world that we live in, one of the problems is that we don't listen to each other. We are on our phones. We don't talk to each other. We're on our computers. We don't talk to each other. Chatting is not talking. That's a totally different form of communication.
Yeah.
When you're talking with somebody, you can sense fear or upset in their voices. You can't really do that with chatting, you know. And so I think, in a sense, the irony of this time in which we live is that we can communicate with people all around the world in a matter of seconds, through our phones, through our computers. We use Skype, we use our phones, whatever it is, we can communicate. But we talk less to each other now than we ever did. If you go to a cafe, for example, you will see nearly everybody there on their phones. Even people out on a date, for example, the man and the woman are each on their phones. You see husbands and wives out on their phones when they're out to dinner. The one that I find sad is, I saw this not long ago, there were 4 people, 2 couples, having dinner at a restaurant, and each person was on the phone. I thought, you know, I wanted to go up to them and say, are you guys texting each other? Is that how you're talking here? Because, you know...
I mean, they're not being present, right?
No, of course not. No, it's not being present at all. But I think we don't do enough talking. And I really do like restaurants that say, we have no Wi-Fi. Sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And if we did more of that, I think that we would be a greater help. But we don't do it at all anymore. And you see parents at playgrounds with their children, and the kids are playing and the parents are on their phones. You know, instead of down there playing with the kids or whatever. I think the phone systems that we have are fantastic accomplishments, but they've taken away some of our humanity. We are slowly, I think, becoming like robots. You know, yeah. we just communicate by that thing. If you wait for a bus, wait for trains, as I do in KL, sometimes you look around, and everybody waiting for the train is on the phone. And they're on the phone when they get on the train. And then I sit down, if I can, and I will start talking to the person next to me. And sometimes they're kind of scared, like, who are you? You know, nothing. I just want to say hello to you and so on. How are you doing? Why? You know, why?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's what human beings do. You know, we connect with each other.
Yeah.
And I don't know if because we don't talk to each other anymore, we don't listen to each other. But because we don't talk to each other, I wonder what is happening to stories? Because we used to have stories we used to tell. You know, when people came together in a cafe or came together somewhere, they told stories about things that happened to them or whatever it might be. But no one seems to do that anymore. Now they are either texting somebody or they're playing a game. And I suspect there aren't very many stories that people have. And I think we've lost something. We've lost something in that regard. And probably one of the reasons why theater is not as popular as it should be, because now people can download something and watch half of it and then watch the other half later on, or they can watch part of a TV show and watch it later on.
Yeah, stories are not a priority.
Not anymore, no,
Yeah.
not anymore. They like those, people respond, I don't know why, and I would love to, if I had the time to do the research, why people are so fascinated by zombie stories. I mean, it's wonderful. It's something I don't know. I haven't even thought about it enough to be able to speculate as to why that is. But zombies seems to be interested of interest to every culture that I've encountered. So.
One thing I find fascinating about you is like yours. It's not every day that you actually encounter someone like you. So I mean, with a theater background, I would assume that you have a lot of life stories to tell as well, or as in like life reflects theater, theater
Sure.
reflects life, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to life, it's actually inevitable that we have to deal with love, right? To fall in love, heartbreaks, and all that. To what extent do someone like sacrifice and go everything for what they love or for another human being that they love, or perhaps to what extent should they avoid heartbreaks, and how do they, like sort of like Hamlet, Ophelia, Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, to reflect back upon life? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes life. Our relationships. If you live life without a relationship, that's not a life. You're just a robot, right? You're dressed in Teflon. Everything that you touch falls off you, right? I mean, I don't know, what a sad life. And so people with many friends are said to be very rich, because that's what adds texture to your life. The people that you know, whether they are your next door neighbors, or whether your friend you work with, or people in another country, or someone you met at a bus stop, or whatever. Without those kinds of contacts, life is just nothing. It's just a void. It's just, you are nothing. You are just a thing by yourself. But if you meet someone and you fall in love, you pretty much have to follow your heart, I guess, is what people have always done. They follow their heart and go from there. It's not a guarantee, but nothing is guaranteed. I mean, if you want a guarantee, then you might as well just go back and be one of those people who sits in a box.
I mean, because you have lived your life, right? Would you say that love is worth suffering for? Is it worth it to suffer for another person to actually get something out of life? Or
well, I mean, I think if it's a good relationship, I don't think you suffer. I mean, if two people love each other, I don't really think you suffer. I think you both complement each other. You know, you work together.
Right, because you mentioned a little bit about Hamlet earlier in the cafe.
Yeah.
Hamlet loves Ophelia that much, but he's not willing to do anything about
Yeah,
it.
but
So that,
Hamlet has other problems.
right.
Hamlet has other problems. There's big issues there. His father is dead, and he knows why his father is dead, right? And he was very much in love with his mother, and he knows that's, she's gone off now, live with another guy and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, Hamlet has many problems, and with Ophelia, he just, I mean, I think in some ways I've seen Hamlet done where he's pretty much played as mentally ill, right? He's a man who has so many challenges in his life. He's overcome by those challenges. He doesn't have time for that. I mean, I suppose when somebody says they have no time for love, then they must be dead, right? I mean, it is what makes life interesting. If you meet somebody and if you meet another person, I think the love of the romantic story, the love of the romantic movie, I think that's a lot of crap, right? I mean, I don't think that happens. I mean, love comes when two people enjoy being with each other, but they also enjoy being themselves too, right? I don't think you don't have to give up yourself entirely to fall in love.
Because when you do, you sort of, it's not really love, is it?
No, you've just given over, you know. I mean, in students that I've had since I've been here, it's fascinating because they have girlfriends and boyfriends, but they meet each other for, you know, they've been hanging out together and stuff like that. And I will remind them, I say, look, whatever you do, it's a two-way street. You know, you can't be giving all the time. She has to give too. I mean, otherwise it's going to be imbalance and it won't last very long.
Yeah.
And
I mean, one of y'all might be jaded over time.
Of course you get jaded over time. And I think that, I do think that one thing you have to understand is that human beings change. And I don't know whether we can't control that. We age does it, our life experiences do it, and so on. And sometimes people's lives change to the point where the person that they thought they were going to live with for the rest of their lives and eternity has suddenly turned out to be not the person they were looking for, right? That's how things happen, you know. There was a philosopher, Jean-Paul Sartre, a French philosopher, who said, hell is other people. And so sometimes it can be other people, right?
Yeah.
You know, but you can't live with, you know what they say about, a guy would say about a girl, I can't live with her and I can't live without her, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of dilemma that we're in. I don't know. I think if two people who have a relationship or a blossoming relationship or not really think that they need to talk. And I'm not sure if that happens a lot. Now people go and rely on counselors and therapists and stuff, and that's important, I'm sure it is, but really, boyfriends, girlfriends need to talk a lot. You know, and the more they talk, the more they get to know each other.
I mean, it doesn't have to be through text, because that's what they do.
No, that doesn't
verbal,
count.
verbal communication.
Yeah, that does not count.
Right.
I mean, when you are talking to somebody face to face, you can tell when they're lying.
Yeah.
Not always, but for the most part you can.
Yeah.
Right? You can tell when they're scared. You can tell when they are hesitant. You can tell when they're happy. But you cannot tell that when somebody is chatting. I hate those, what you call them, those little faces, happy faces, emoticons.
Yeah,
I hate those things. I mean, people will put a emoji with a kiss on it for somebody, right?
Yeah.
And you say, well, what does that mean? You know, that's just a symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it easy, I guess. It's like people go buy cards for Valentine's, you know, and have some syrupy verse on it. And
Yeah.
you say, well, can you say that yourself? No. Right? Well, you know, I mean, I do think that people who talk will get to know each other. And I think that's how it works. The same way, if you're working with actors and so on, you need to get to know each other. You know who the person is you're working with. And you have to get to know the character that you're playing. And that's the big issue, right? You were asking about acting just now, is how does one get to understand the character? It helps if there's something in that character that you can relate to, you know? And I've seen actors go from, I hate this character, to I really love this character, because in the rehearsal, they find out. Now, if somebody's directing your play, remember, the thing that we put on a stage is called a play. A musician plays the piano, plays the guitar. It's not by accident that that verb is used to describe artistic undertaking. A play is playing with possibilities, playing with ideas. You playing at being somebody you're not. There is an element of play. When art does not have an element of play, all you have to do is watch TV, you can see that. When art does not have an element of play, it's dead. The term I often use is that it's like paint by numbers. You color according to the way they want you to color.
Yeah.
And that's a formula. And that's one of the things I think that has killed some theater, is that it became very formulaic. We did it this way, we do it that way, we do it that way. It's what killed many movies. There's a formula that they follow. Same with TV. They follow a formula.
So what I can understand is life has no formula. So does love has no formula. So
No, it's not. There's no formula. There's no answer to it. I mean, human beings have been singing songs and telling stories about love since the day we crawled out the cave or wherever it is we came from. Right?
Yeah.
And we're still doing it. I mean, if you look at the pop songs that are on the radio or that they're, I would say, I'm making this up now, I would say that 90% of all pop songs are about love.
True.
It's that one thing that we do not really quite understand. We can't live without it, but we can't live with it, we can't live without it. But at the same time, if you find that person who challenges you, somebody who's can talk to you, somebody who's smart like you, has ideas, you find that will make life much easier. Sometimes if you, a husband and wife really should complement each other. They should be to read. They should be watching the same films. A student of mine one time that I had seen, not here, but in Canada, I had seen him about maybe 15 years after he graduated. And I asked him where the woman was that he had married. She had been a student as well. And he told me they had separated. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, if you sent each of us out to the movie shops to pick up 20 movies, we would never pick up the same one. We had absolutely no interest at all. He said he was interested in films, and she was interested more in the Hollywood movies about falling in love and falling out of love and so on. He said, but the same thing, he said, it got to the point where we had nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's human nature. That is the one thing they say, that one sign that a relationship is dying is that the two of you do not laugh anymore. Okay?
When that happens, do you have to work harder, play around and get the spark started again? Or
You can try, and of course you should never give up, because it's easy to give up, but you should never give up, because and to give up without trying is wrong. But sometimes you try, you might find a therapist, you might find those kinds of things, and you may find that no, I think it's probably broken. It's probably broken.
So that's when you walk away.
And that's when you walk away. But here's this word again that I mentioned just now. This word in English, we have a word called amicably, right? You walk away as friends. AMICABLY. You walk away as friends. You don't walk away as enemies, right? And I think that's okay when that happens. It makes it even worse. There are children involved, and that's another story. But that's another issue. But generally, when the spark has gone out of a relationship, it's one sign is that the two people don't laugh anymore. And I think I think there's something true. They did, for example, years ago, there was a survey done. Women in every culture in the world, around the world, were asked what they most wanted in a man. And the overwhelming answer was they wanted someone who could make them laugh. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind. Because we talk about each other, but we should also be able to laugh at each other. Because that's one of the things we do. That's one of the reasons for comedy is we like to laugh at each other sometimes. Some people do not like to be laughed at. But, if, for example, in Canada or in the United States, some of the most popular shows on TV are shows derived to laugh at politicians and things. I mean, Canada has had the longest running TV show, I think it's now something that's been going on for 25, 30 years. And that's what it does. It takes the news of the week and all that. Saturday Night Live in the United States does the same thing, and that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, I think we have covered everything.
Yeah, before, because we're running out of time, I'm gonna flip the script because it's how the format goes. I'll flip the script and give you a chance to ask me anything, any question that pops out your mind about me regarding all these, regarding Malaysia or whatsoever that come across your mind. You can go for it. Ask me any question. Just one.
Well,
question.
maybe you should. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time will be Godfather. The first.
Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot of love in that one, is there?
A whole lot of love, actually.
I guess there is. Love for the family, love for money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This sort of thing, right? And okay. How about a song? Who's a popular singer that you like?
Popular singer to this day and age.
Right now, yeah.
Right now, let me think. Right now, popular. Oh man, popular.
Doesn't have to be popular. Who's one of your favorite singers?
Alt J, Chad Faker. It's like I don't know if you heard. I'm trying to look for someone popular right now.
You were talking so much about love. I wondered if you like Ed Sheeran.
No, not really.
You don't like him?
I don't. Yeah.
And he's writing about love.
No, because the reason why I talk so much about love, because love reflects life, and also it actually, because you have a lot of wisdom in you, even you don't show it, I can sort of read it from you.
Yeah,
so
well.
I'm sure you have a little bit of thoughts in that, even though it's subjective from one case to another,
Sure.
from one
Yeah.
life to another, but
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a gist of it, like should someone really sacrifice for love, or you should learn how to walk away, or
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that's two options. I don't think these are the only options you have available. Sacrifice everything for love. Does that mean, for example,
change who you are, be there for the other person, feel the pain.
Well, if you give up who you are, then what's the point? Because the person that they fell in love with was you. Then you have to change into who you are. I mean, you often...
Because you sort of have to change who you are to fit in their character.
Well, then that's wrong. I don't think that's true. I think remember, it's a two-way street.
Right.
It's a 50-50.
It's always that way, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, if you got to give up everything to be with the person you love, then really, I would question their love of you, right? I mean, they would look around and say, look, this is what he likes to do, and now he's given it all up for me. I don't think that's a wise thing for him to do. I think he should still do the things he loves to do. And I think but I know there are cases where men suddenly have gotten married and no one ever sees them anymore, right?
Became submissive.
Yeah, and I think eventually you will see them again, because eventually they will break away. You know, they can only take that for so much. I mean, women will try to change men, but they should know it does not work.
At the end of the day.
It never works. They've been trying since the dawn of time, and it doesn't work.
Doesn't work, ladies. Okay, before I go on to the last question, can people actually find you on social media for inspiration for your artwork? Or?
No, I don't have very much on there. I'm on Facebook. That's all about it. I don't have a blog or anything like that. I've thought about doing it, but I might. But people are willing to contact me at all. I have so many of my friends on Facebook are Malaysians. My name on Facebook is Chess J Skinner. And people can contact me, and we can discuss things and so on. I like using WhatsApp because I can actually, if there's good connection, can actually talk to people.
Yeah.
It's not quite like face to face, but at least when you are talking, even on WhatsApp or on the phone, you know a hesitation. For example, you say to somebody, "How are you?" And they say, "I'm great, fantastic." Well, you know, da, 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 da. Or you could say, "How are you?" Okay. Okay. And you know it's not okay, right?
Yeah.
That hesitation, then okay. Okay is a non-word. It doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
You know? It's no saying. For example, in my world, okay means not very good. Like, how do you like the show? Okay.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
Kind
Right?
of suck actually. Okay,
Something like that,
sucks.
right?
Okay, of the last question.
Okay.
For the advice that you have for the young people in the 20s or perhaps in the 30s who is sort of lost in life and haven't figured out what they want to do fully in life, and they are stuck in a rut where they are doing whatever job that they have because they have to pay their dues and they have their families and whatnot, but they want to live a bigger life, a more meaningful life. What would your advice be for these young lads?
I mean, there's no magic formula. I've always found that in my lifetime, people who have never worked out exactly what they want to do are sometimes the happiest people I know. Right?
Right.
They're still searching. And I think as long as you're still searching, you are okay. And you don't have to be able to travel around the world. You can travel in your own community, travel around the world, travel around the communities and stuff like that, and meet different people. Now, you're in a job that you don't like, but you can't give it up, you know, because you need the money to pay. That's a difficult dilemma. There is a difficult.
So if you figure out a way to get out of that, you should do that first things first.
You should. Yeah, you should. If you could find a way to get out of there, you should do it. You know?
And then slowly figure out life, I guess.
Yeah. But people who say, "This is what I really want to do," I'm always suspect of that. Because I think the students I've had over the 30-something years that I've been teaching, the ones who seem to be happiest are those who still haven't figured out what they want to be, right?
Wow. Such a gem. That's a diamond right there.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's true, you know. And I think people who figure it out sometimes soon fall in a rut, you know.
Yeah, because your perspective, the perspective that you have in life changes every day. You meet different people, you just change your mind every
And you
single
just need
day.
to meet people, talk to people, you know. I mean, it doesn't cost much to go to a coffee shop or go someplace and sit down and actually talk to people. The other thing that I would do, that I do a lot and I would recommend, is that people should read. Read more. Encounter new ideas. And accommodate those new ideas if they fit into your world. But if you never read and you don't talk to people, well, you're already dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, thank you.
All right.
Okay, bonus question though, out of the context, like what makes a good actor a great actor? What makes a great actor great?
Oh my God, that's a very, very difficult one. I think it means an actor who is believable. As a teacher, I go to shows and I watch shows that my students do. And there are some actors and they come out, and I'm always worried. I'm watching student productions. I'm worried because I don't want my student to screw up and to make a mistake or something like that. And there are some actors who will come out and while they're on stage, I'm kind of worried. But there are others who come out and they don't say it, but in everything they do, they say, "Sit back, relax. I'm in charge. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to entertain you and hopefully tell you a good story. Maybe I'll make you laugh, maybe I'll make you cry. But you just sit back and relax because I'm in control." I like that. I like that. But an actor who's believable. One of the reasons I like British television shows, because the actors look like actors. The actors look like people. The American actors don't really look like people. They look like Cupid dolls. You know, they all have that bright white teeth and the blonde hair and the blue eyes, and they all look basically the same, right? But British actors look like real people, and I would say Canadian actors as well. They look like real people, and I think that's something. But acting doesn't really depend on looks. It depends on your commitment to it, how honest you are. Tell the truth. Be truthful, and I think that'll work. Okay.
Okay, thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mr.
Oh my
Chess.
God.
Thank you for being part of Hello Kopi Kumulo podcast.
Okay. All right.
Handshake,
Okay.
right?
Oh, is this on?
Wow.
Have we been on that kind of podcast?
1, 2, 3, swag.
Okay. What are you doing?
Okay,
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
One more time.
Okay.
By flow. And 1, 2, 3, swag.
That's new. I didn't know that.
Thank you, Mr. Chess.
All right. Okay. All right.
Sorry, take your time. I'm done.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah, it went well. Super well. Whew. Thank you.
What is this little thing you got here?
It's actually interface. It's
Oh.
like a processor for the
Okay.
mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you getting the picture? Oh, your camera's just filming this.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, these are pretty powerful microphones.
It does the job. Yeah.
Do you sing?
I do as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
With guitar and
And are you in love?
I am hesitant. Yeah, actually.
Hello, Mr. Christopher. Hi. I'm fine. I'm in my condo, but I'm going to Aswara. I have to go for lunch over at Bank Nagara. And we're going over there to look at your pile of money over at Bank Nagara. I'm going to look at all the money that belongs to Christopher Wong. Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming back not into Aswara, no, at UITM. I got a lead on something at UITM, and I have to come back and write a letter. But maybe sometime this evening I'm meeting somebody for a quick lunch. Yeah, well, let's try for around 4 o'clock. No, you don't have to pick me up. I can meet you somewhere. Maybe we can go to Bangsar and have a coffee. No, I don't go to pubs, remember?